and welcome to the second rewriting live stream for Wrapped in Ocean. Okay, I'm a bit less nervous than I was last time, but still a bit nervous. You know, it kind of comes with it, I think. Maybe it will be better the more times we do this, but for now, still a bit nervous. So, hello, I'm Romelia. I'm an indie author and I am currently working on a pirate fantasy novel called Wrapped in Ocean, and I have decided to take you along with me and document this whole journey. This includes rewriting, because the only thing that exists of this novel right now is a first draft that I wrote in 2023, maybe? I think it was 2023, and I did document that journey too, and it's on my channel. I did it for the NaNoWriMo that year. But we're back to it, and my second step in my revision or writing process is to, I write my first draft, take a break from it. This time it was quite a long break because I've been working on other things, and then I retype everything and change things, so I rewrite it. And last week was our first live stream, which I was super nervous for that. I feel like it went better than I expected. Hopefully it will be even better today. But we wrote 3 chapters. So just to get a hold of where we are in the story, we last week introduced Captain Jones of the Locket. We also introduced 2 of the crew members, Reaper and Silver Eye. We also got to see the other side of this, which is Cordelia Delmore. She is one of the main characters and part of the main couple in this story. So, like I said, this is a pirate fantasy novel, and it also involves some bottled letters and kind of a weird pen pal thing going on with those letters, where this girl, Cordelia, kind of starts writing down her feelings like a journal entry and sending them out as bottled letters into the ocean, because she loves the ocean. She's not allowed to go near the ocean, really. Her dad is a bit overprotective that way, but her uncle takes her to the ocean because you know how siblings are. Maybe you know how siblings are. But then she gets these letters answered. Not technically answered in the sense of someone writing back, but in the sense of someone, putting trinkets, taking the letters out of the bottles, putting some trinkets in them and sending them back. And they have had this exchange for a while. And Cordelia doesn't know who this person is. This person doesn't know who Cordelia is. All they know is the things she has written in the letters, and all Cordelia knows is that, okay, this is the person who knows my inner thoughts and sends me things that are very comforting. And Cordelia is making mostly bracelets out of the trinkets she gets sent in these letters, or in these bottles. So she has a lot of bracelets on her arms that she like touches for comfort, and like the sound of them clinging together comforts her. So I'm just gonna double check so I don't miss any. Yeah, and where we left off is their actual like meet cute, because they actually meet. Neither of them know that the other person is the person on the other side of those bottles, but they have a little meet cute, and we are kind of in the middle of it. Last chapter was from Captain Jones's point of view when they discover this girl by the beach. And so the next part is to follow Cordelia during this, and we will jump back a little bit in this chapter, and we're not starting from where we left off, just switching character, but instead we're jumping back in time a little bit, where Cordelia sneaks out and why she's on the beach. And let's see if I have my notes. So we will see her sneak out, and we will get a bit of her family dynamic this way, because Cordelia is one of 3 siblings who lives with their dad. Their mom died giving birth to Cordelia, or very early. So she hasn't had a relationship with her mother. Her dad is the only parent she knows. But she has 2 older siblings, and as well as an uncle. So we will explore that a bit, because these siblings are amazing. I love these siblings. I know I've written them, but they are very caring about each other, but it doesn't really show from the outside. So, and like her uncle is also, he's very much a younger brother to Cordelia's father. And we will also introduce a new character that will be important. And I think I mentioned last time that I did consider like cutting this character out, because I kind of find him a bit annoying. But instead I'm going to make sure that he's tolerable. Because I do feel like he gives a very important side of this story. And I do feel like it's a good change of perspective to see his side too. But yeah. And I have both my notes here with my place names, because this is as much as I have for the names of everything. I have not gotten that into my document. I probably should, but and I also have my iPad with the first draft on it, because I know myself, and I know that I am a lazy bastard. So if I had the ability to copy and paste text from the first draft into this draft, I am not sure I wouldn't do that. So that's why I'm having it on a completely different device, so that I have to actually retype it. And why I'm doing this is mainly because it's a lot easier to change big things when I have to retype it anyway, instead of, okay, maybe I can use this paragraph here and move things around. This just makes sure that I am a bit more strict with myself. And don't settle for things that are meh, okay. So, but I have gone through this first draft and like highlighted some things that are like, oh wait, this doesn't make sense, because spoiler alert, this thing has plot holes the size of the moon. So and I had no idea about certain things when I started writing this. So my process is usually like I had kind of a vague outline, but it took like 2 days and until that outline was kind of melting. I think the words I used was, my outline is melting into a puddle on the floor, and I'm kind of just scooped up things as I went. So we're getting to change a lot of things, including this first phrase or first paragraph right here, because my first draft says it hadn't been easy sneaking out. It had been by sheer luck that no one had noticed her when she had passed the living room. And no, it wasn't sheer luck. And this goes back to the siblings, because when I started writing this, I kind of felt like, oh, maybe they are just like kind of distant with each other, like they aren't the closest. And I thought like, okay, her siblings aren't really supportive of her going to the ocean. That changed into this sibling dynamic we have here, where they are protecting each other. They are very different people, all three of them, with Rosemary being the oldest, and she's engaged to this assistant in her father's company, and like her fiance is basically her brother's assistant, as well as her brother's best friend since childhood. That's the whole thing that we will dive into later. But like, she's this high society, pretty girl who she's engaged, about to get into all the family life. And then their brother, Arthur, has followed his dad's footsteps and is like supposed to take over the company and yada yada yada. He at one point wanted to be a sailing master, which is a navigator for the Navy, and he gave that up because he couldn't just keep fighting with his dad about the whole "my children are not going anywhere near the ocean" situation, which Arthur, out of everyone, understands this perspective, because the thing that led to this what's it called, like the thing that led to them not being allowed to be near the ocean or like be by the water was that their aunt drowned. So their dad is just worried that the same thing will happen to his children. He already lost his sister, so that's kind of why. Arthur was there. Arthur was very much there by the water when it happened. So he understands why this is the case, and even though he did like fight his dad for it for quite a while, he eventually gave up and went to a different type. He got himself a different education instead, and now they're both supporting their little sister, who for some reason can't stop wanting to be near the ocean. But yeah, let's get to writing instead of just babbling. And like always, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask me and I will answer them here. You might get a japping session because I tend to talk a lot now, I have realized. Especially about like these characters, and there will be things I might go into more. There are especially some of these characters that I can't help but talk about a lot. But we need to make sure that it wasn't hard for Cordelia to sneak out. I actually do tend to write with music, but it's been kind of hard to find music that I am actually allowed to use in live streams, so for the sake of these live streams, I am currently writing in silence, which I know it makes it weird that I have my headphones on, but it makes me focus a bit more. But I am very much someone who writes to music. It most of the time works. Sometimes writing with music does end up making me have like a small dance party instead of actually writing, but it's worth it. I do also have like writing playlists for all of my writing for different stories and for each of the characters. For this I also have like Spotify playlists for each of the ships. So thank you for asking. It means a lot. Though I got a bit nervous. we we're back to the meeting point, the meet cute. Okay. I'm just scrolling forward a bit so I know what this scene is and if there's something I want to move around. I need to write what happened last time. Okay, they didn't talk in the last chapter, so we're... Otherwise, I would want to make sure that Jones's line was the same in this chapter as in the last chapter. Maybe... Though maybe this is a bad first line. Or like... Let's see. Yeah, I should probably not use this as first line. Mainly because it's the exact same first line as between the main pairing in Keep Me Breathing. I do feel like that's maybe not optimal. And I do feel like it did suit better here. And I did not realize this when I wrote the first draft, so it's good I realized it now. But I also don't know what else Jones could say. Because Jones just watched them. I mean, they could probably just do a good evening. And for now, that might be... And I can do... We're doing another color. Okay, that looked a bit better at least. Now, if you did watch last week's live stream, you know that I mentioned that I had misgendered Jones. And you might notice that I am referring to Jones as a man here, because that's how Cordelia sees them right now. And many people will continue to see them as a man because that's the appearance they are going for, and that's their goal. They are trying to come off as a man. Oh wait, I will... So this time I am fully aware of the misgendering happening, and it's intentional. That's a good word. So in my first draft I have the word wild instead, but it didn't feel quite right. So since my vocabulary is trash sometimes, especially when writing, I looked up synonyms for wild and found the word untamed. Most of the times you can get by getting like, okay, I want the word that means kind of this, and then you just go through synonyms, because most of the time synonyms aren't the same word, if that makes sense. Probably not, but like they are similar enough that sometimes you find the word you're looking for. And like in this instance I wanted kind of the same vibe, but or like the same meaning but a different vibe, kind of. Alright. Decisions will need to be made again. Okay, so I want to mention Jones's eye color. And Jones's eyes are kind of important because they are what gives them away to Reaper in the first place. Because the reason Reaper knows about their identity, and if you weren't here last time, Reaper is the first mate on Captain Jones's ship. And they know that they're not who they say they are, because Reaper used to sail with 2 of Jones's ancestors, and when Jones stepped onto the ship, Reaper recognized them because Jones looks exactly like one of Reaper's former captains, Irma Jones. But Jones here has the eyes of another one of Reaper's former crew members, someone he considered very much a dear friend. And that other person will be relevant later. I just haven't decided if they're like, I haven't completely decided how they looked before they became a ghost. But they also can't stand out too much. So for a while I thought, like, maybe I can do this ghost character like he was already a very pale person before. And I could kind of like get that into the world building and his history as well. But also that would mean that Jones would have very pale eyes, and it might stand out too much, so they would be recognized as their younger self before they, decided to hide who they are and everything. But I think I'm just gonna stick with Jones having brown eyes for now. Might write that in my notes. Because, like, Cordelia has green eyes, as do most of her family have very, like, green or blue eyes. And Silver has a very blue eye. Very, very... Silver eye is... He would fare well in World War II, so to speak. Very blonde, very blue-eyed. And manly. before he lost one of his eyes and changed it to a silver one. His eye color will also be important for one of the best scenes in the first draft. So you will have to stick around for that one because that's a lot later in the story. Okay, let's continue. Focus. Writing. No, this is not the dialogue. we have reached Rasmus. Now, you will soon see more of Rasmus, but because he is also part of this meet cute situation, unfortunately. But Rasmus is the son of the town's priest, or like the head priest. And he's also not officially engaged to Cordelia, but he has kind of received the thumbs up to propose to her from her father. And they have been kind of close, like as close as they could be, I guess, with how they are as people. And also, like, Cordelia knows this, even though there hasn't been an official proposal. She has overheard people talking, and, you know, the whole town is basically talking about these kinds of things all the time. So, of course, she has picked up on the intention. And she has tried to feel these things, because she doesn't consider him like a close friend, but he is pretty much the closest thing she has to a friend in her hometown. And we're not counting her siblings, so apart from her family, he is the closest person to her. And they go out and do things together, and she wouldn't be she's not too against the idea. She's just not feeling these things for him, but she's also like, maybe that's the best option I have. And now I see that we are at the bottom. I should probably redo this frame so that I fit the whole page, but I don't. It's almost everything. But yeah, that's Rasmus. And that's the character who we will see more from, because his point of view is, like I mentioned earlier, important. Even though he is kind of a brat. I would probably have to go back and do a lot of revisions with this chapter, I feel, even right now. But I do. Now I have like the big things, and this second draft is to focus on the big things, filling in plot holes, organizing chapters and scenes. I can always polish and build on the scenes later. But part of my process is to get it down, because you can't edit a blank page, and it's a lot easier to polish things when the big blocks are in place. And let's see, we are moving things again. So, this will be the first chapter, I think, now, right? Because we had Jones in the first chapter, Cordelia, Jones, Cordelia. So this will be the first chapter from a new point of view. Because this novel is multiple points of view, and it's 5. So we have seen Cordelia and Jones, who are... their romance is the main plot. Or like their thing is the main plot. But like I said, we will have other characters too. So we will have kind of like one character related to each of them, as well as Rasmus, who is technically related to Cordelia since they have grown up together and are expected to get married someday. But we will also get Silver Eye and Cordelia's uncle. But what's this? Better. But for now, we will get Rasmus's point of view. And like I said, Rasmus is kind of a brat. He doesn't mean anything bad. He is just like a young boy who has kind of a strong sense of justice, but that justice is based on the things he's been told, and he very strongly believes in the things he's been told. So he's kind of a bit narrow-minded, and like he does what he believes is the right thing, even if everyone else can see that it maybe not always. So I do think Rasmus will be the hardest character to write and to get good, because like I said, I kind of wanted to cut him out because he's kind of annoying, and you don't really want to have some chapters where you follow a character, you're like, yeah, I want to skip this. But I also want kind of like he will grow throughout this book and learn to kind of think for himself and not believe everything he's been told, because there will be some things he's been told about another country, about his religion, and like what morals are and who deserves what. He also don't understand jokes, and there will be an ongoing joke with Cordelia's uncle's captain that everyone will see that it's a joke, except Rasmus. And this, yeah, but he's kind of having like not completely the same, but if you've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, you know that one of the characters, Sokka, is kind of stupid. But like he is kind of sexist and stuff, and he has to learn about these things and he becomes better. Rasmus is kind of in a similar boat. Like he will be kind of annoying at first, but he's probably one of the characters who will grow the most throughout the events of this book. And also I have had a small thought to like maybe write a sequel, and he would be very important in that sequel. But we're focusing on this one first. And we are once again moving back in time a bit, because like this Meet Cute event is pretty much what kicks off the rest of the story. So we've had a few chapters of getting to know the characters every day, and or at least getting to know Jones's and Cordelia's everyday lives. But there will be this big event, so we will... I'm gonna see what my note says about this chapter. So we will get to see Rasmus for the first time and get to know his thoughts. We will also see the Delmore siblings, so Cordelia and her siblings' relationship from an outsider who may not have the best ability to see what is happening. We will also kind of see how Arthur and Rosemary let Cordelia sneak out. So the reason it wasn't hard for her was because they basically let her. They like, oh, she's gonna leave now. We'll keep the eyes on us instead. And Rasmus is also terrified of Arthur, because Arthur is this older boy and he's Cordelia's big brother. And also like comes off kind of rough towards Rasmus. And then we have the big thing. I'm not gonna spoil that for you, because you will see it soon, like in the middle of this chapter, but we will talk about it when we get there. Oh no, wait. So one important thing I need to make sure comes across in Rasmus's chapters is that he's very much I am above these dirty sailor workers, because his family has kind of a high status, being connected to their religion and stuff. And while Cordelia is very much like, I don't care, I enjoy these people, and I don't really care for all the manners and class things. Just like her uncle is also very much like that. But Rasmus is, once again, he's been told that we are of a higher status because we are better than them, and he believes pretty much everything he's been taught. And like, he's even been homeschooled, so a lot of his knowledge circles around their religion. And a big part of this religion is also like there's only one God, and everything in this religion is true, and a lot of that will be challenged. And also, like, the main place this religion comes from is the Exio Islands, which is across the sea. But like, that's kind of where the religion's capital thing is. And those people are a bunch. You will see later. And yeah, I did not know where I was going with that thought, but like, he is very much has this society ingrained in him, and like, this is how it works. Different classes deserve different things, have different worth, and you know, he's just such a fun character to have around, you know, or not. And you might see already what the big thing will be. Alright. Right, I need to change more things. Yay! And this is why rewriting is great at this stage. Because do you remember that I said that Cordelia was supposed to have snuck out and no one had seen her? Now I have to accept defeat and tackle the consequences of changing that fact. Because I have now come to a scene where they are looking for Cordelia in her room. Like, Rosemary just accepts that she... Like, Rosemary doesn't know that she has gone. That's a lot of things to change. That's a lot of things to change. Damn. Okay, so... Maybe this dialogue will be a bit weird from this perspective, but I'm thinking that Rosemary is very much like, to what do we owe the pleasure? I already know the answer, but please tell me. I need to be polite and somehow explain to you that she is already gone. But I also don't want Rasmus to pick up on these things because he's dense. And he only sees what he already believes. So, this dialogue might be a bit rough. But also, like, I will try to make it so it's... The reader might pick up on it. That, hey, this is a bit weird. But it also should be believable enough that Rasmus doesn't understand. So, yeah. I will have to live with the consequences of my actions. So let's remove that. you're not seeing this. I got a bit too into it, but Rasmus just shot Jones from a distance. And that's kind of the big thing that sets everything in motion. And the only point of view character who isn't involved in this event or who isn't present for this event is Cordelia's uncle. So yeah, we will try to get one more chapter done. It's a short chapter, but then we will have this whole situation over with. Or at least like the event of the gunshot will be done and the meet cute is over. And I think that's like a good place to stop for tonight after the next chapter. And we will also be back to Cordelia after the next chapter. And okay, so we have some fun things in this chapter too that I kind of want to dive into. And this will also be we will get the next point of view introduced to us, which is Silvereye. His real name is Harold. Which it kind of suits him, but also kind of doesn't. So he usually just goes by Silvereye, but he will refer to himself as Harold. And this is the reason I'm thinking I might need to have like one of those character sheets or like lists of character names for this book to kind of get an idea of what's happening. So Harold is Silvereye, which it will be obvious soon. But for now, I kind of actually though like the idea of being like, oh wait, who is Harold? And then we'd be like, oh, okay, we know more about Silvereye now. This is also like the worst character I could have added because he will cause me big problems later. Still not cutting him out though, because I love him, and the side plot with Silvereye is like in my head it's amazing. So yeah, it's a really sweet romance going on there, and kind of messy, and So for you who weren't here last time, Silvereye is the quartermaster of the Locket. He is also their navigator, though it's not, since it's not really usual for a pirate ship to have a dedicated sailing master, he's also the quartermaster. Officially. But he's kind of a sunshine character, a bit of like energetic and positive, and he's kind of a flirt when they're on land. Specifically, it's important to know that it's when he's on land. When he's on the ship, he isn't. And so when Jones left the pub in chapter 3, before they found Cordelia, Silvereye kind of had his eyes on a girl. So that's why Jones left and was like, yeah, that's my cue to leave. See you later, Silver. Mm-hmm. So this is actually kind of a fun detail, because when I wrote the first draft, I was like, okay, how does Silver carry Jones away? Because Jones has been shot. So I was like, okay, I need to look this up. What's the best way to carry someone with a gun wound? And my, like, basically light research of Google basically told me call 911. That was like the thing I could find. Like, okay, don't move them, but like I need them to be moved right now. They can't stay there. And then it was like, okay, call 911. So I took a different approach and pulled out my phone instead and typed a message to my best friend who is a nurse. And it was like, okay, this is really weird, but if someone is shot, how would be the best way to carry them if you're just one person carrying them? Like, would it be better to, like, give them a piggyback ride or throw them over your shoulder like a sack of potatoes, which, like, obviously wasn't the best option. And I was like, or maybe bridal style would be better. And she was like, you know what, I think bridal style would be better. Now she knows I write things, and she that was probably a mild question for me to ask her, honestly. She knows me well enough. We've been friends since we were like 5-6 years old. So I wasn't scared that she would judge me. I was more like, this might be a weird thing. Do you have an answer? Because I was like, if anyone has an answer, it's probably her. But I'm not sure she wouldn't have an answer. But like, we decided on bridal style, and it was fun, because I didn't have to like tell her, like, I tried to Google this and the only thing I got was call 911 and I'm writing a pirate fantasy with no cell phones. So help me. It's good to have friends with medical knowledge. And she will probably have to be mentioned in the acknowledgements of this book for that reason. And other reasons, but, you know. It's an excuse. I do also have another decision to make, which is, or it's not even a decision because I've already made the decision. I just need to change more things. So in the first draft, Jones will tell him because, oh yeah, I should add that earlier. So in the first draft, both Harold mentioned that he found Jones in the arms of the girl and not a girl. But I have another chapter later where I basically tell Reaper like it was the girl. And it's a whole thing. So I had to take that out. I also, in the first draft, made it so that it was Jones, Reaper, and I who picked out the trinkets for the bottles. But I have since changed it to the crew, because while Jones is the one who reads the letters, they do kind of tell the crew a bit about it, and the crew helps pick things out. It may have started with just Jones and then like Reaper and Silver, but the whole crew is in on it, and that will be important later too. So this chapter does end on like the note of maybe Silver has had a few too many beers, or maybe the rigging actually did move on its own. And I do believe like this is one of the first instances where we actually have a character on page see something supernatural. Because this is a fantasy, there are a lot of things happening. I mean, apart from the whole back and forth with the letters, which on its own is kind of supernatural and kind of weird and unbelievable, but maybe possible. The ship moving on its own, it wouldn't be possible. Unless this is like the alcohol talking. It's not. But I really wanted to, like, I want to sprinkle in this whole, the locket situation, because it will be clear later on what is actually happening, but I don't want it to come off as like, that's convenient. Where did this come from? So I will sprinkle it in. It will kind of be hinted at later too, when they are going through a storm, and like hinted in the fact that like someone is able to control this ship with an extreme what's it called? What's the word for it? Precision. With like extreme precision. So I want this to be like, I want it added in early on, and like we have already kind of had the Reaper doesn't leave the ship, and now we see the rigging move on its own. I kind of want the reader to be like, maybe there's something there, but also like the deniability of there's always an excuse, and like it could be just coincidences. But like, yeah, maybe Reaper just doesn't like leaving the boat. He's just used to the ship. Or, you know, maybe Silver has just had too many drinks. Maybe. Or maybe there's something else. Who knows? And it's gonna be important later on too, for the whole big thing. And it's also one of the reasons, because I did consider having like, okay, should I do Reaper's point of view? But I do like Reaper being kind of like shrouded in mystery, and like, do we really know him? Who is this man who is grumpy all the time, can move on the ship like he was born there, and never leaves it? And there are also some things that like, you shouldn't be able to do that. And like, there will also be more things, like Reaper is part in getting the letters to the captain, kind of. And I think having his point of view would take away a lot from what we see, and we don't really need it to understand Reaper. Because like, not even the others completely understand him. Like, Jones can see through him in some cases. Silver can't. But, like, they work together really well, and they care about each other, even though it's not always obvious. But yeah, Reaper is really important. He is also really important to kind of the prophecy thing lying in the background right now. Which, it's not a big part of this story, but there is a prophecy for the captain of the Flying Dutchman, or the former captain of the Flying Dutchman, Captain Crow, who, like, it wasn't even supposed to be a prophecy, it was a threat, and she kind of made it into a prophecy because she believed it was prophecy. But yeah, that's our meet cute. And kind of our, like, starting incident thing, if you like to think like story beats. This is the thing that sets everything off. This is kind of the first domino to fall. And so the next few chapters next week, because we will do this again next week, we will have our first moved chapter next week, which will be because I will change place on chapter 8 and chapter 11. We will also get our last point of view characters next week, if we manage to go 3 chapters. And, like, it will be, I want to say it will be fun chapters next week. It's gonna be a lot of depression and things. But we will get to meet Levi more, which is Cordelia's uncle. And we will also have a chapter where Reaper and Silvereye interact more. And it will be like the next part of this domino thing. So yeah, I look forward to next week, even though it will be depressing. Be prepared for that. But yeah, I think we got 3 chapters done this week, today, and I'm not writing anything on this outside of these live streams because I want to document everything. For now, I'm just doing them on Fridays to have time for other things. I'm still working on the Strongest Trainer Punk, as well as other things and videos and personal things and work and life. So we're sticking to Fridays. Maybe in the future, further down the line, we might need to add more days because we have 52 chapters to rewrite. But yeah, it's been fun. Thank you so much for watching. And now I even forgot my own ending line here. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great adventure, and I hope to see you next week. Bye!